here?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, why are you here?
You want to shock us? Well, no, I'm kidding.
Kind of, but yes and no.
You want to show us what Thorshield does to remove the threat of a electroshock weapon protection. I read the screen.
You're on. It's on. We didn't do hot potato. Let's do hot potato. So we're going to pass around 2 gloves. And the hot potato time starts now. We'll tell you what happens if you're caught with the gloves. So take a look. They'll spend some time on it.
Hey, every time I play the game, you don't want to be holding the glove.
The timer won't be that quick.
That's what they always say.
So what you guys are looking at is the Thorshield Protector Series Eagle Series 1 glove, full length and wrist length. And it is, as the gentleman said, protecting you against tasers, #1. And then it's also protecting you against cut, slash, if you will, fire. And it works with capacitive touchscreen devices. And it's 360-degree protection. Kind of give you a little product intro as you guys move around for hot potato in this game, if you will. And what we're going to show you is really protecting the officers. Because a taser is a serious threat. A stun gun is a serious threat that they face every day. Millions of stun guns have been sold. Tasers sold over 600,000. X26s, X2s, X3s, different types. This glove will protect you against electricity only, not the probes if they were to penetrate inside the glove. Okay. All right, Chilts, is it time up? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Now what we'll do is we'll demo it later, for the most part, and then we have a prize for whoever decides to say, I'll take this. We're going to try to convince you during the presentation that it works without actually. Money, is it money? Can't let it go. Can't let the city go. It's experience. It's experience. All right, what we're going to do is we really want to hear from you guys and what you're experiencing. So let's pause for a second, do quick intros for us, and we'll ask you guys where you guys are from, what department you guys represent. And then we'll get into kind of the meat and potatoes. So,
Greg Schultz, partner at G Squared Consulting, makers of Thorshield.
you got it. And Greg Williams, the other partner for G Squared Consulting.
G&G.
G&G.
That's G squared.
G Squared. This is a man. So what departments are you guys representing here?
I represent the sales department.
Sales department. Very good.
Customer service.
Customer service.
Customer service.
Sweet.
State sales.
State sales, okay.
Customer service and agency care.
Agency of care, okay. Great, so hopefully, as we go through this, you guys have experienced or received questions. So give us feedback. This is interactive, so anytime you have a question, just throw it out there. And just let us know what you guys think. And we're going to ask you guys a lot of questions as well, because we want to hear from you guys. One, just what we're presenting, does it make sense? What do you think? And then number 2, if you are experiencing things, what are you experiencing? So our main intent, again, just to reiterate, is that you guys understand the purpose and the need for the product at the end of the day. Why should an officer carry this product? And that's a good segue into this is only sold to licensed law enforcement and licensed military. It is not sold to the consumer. We've gotten great feedback from a lot of the officers as we go through the country, whether we're meeting with departments or going to conferences. They like that component because it isn't something that they're going to face when they go taser, drop a person. By accident, the person acts like they're incapacitated, and then they go to the cuff and turn around 9mm shot. Right? They don't want that. We don't want that. So we want to make sure that as a controlled item, you guys have the proper procedures in place to make sure that doesn't happen. Go back real quick, Chills, please. So, demo later, and generally the first question is, and this is important from a sales perspective and customer service, have you ever taken a ride? Have you ever felt the effect? Because it's a different experience if you felt it versus if you haven't. It's kind of like hindsight's 20/20. That's what this situation's about. For the officers that you talk to that have taken the ride, they'll understand what this means. Quick scenario, Nevada PD. 2 officers go on the call. First officer says assailant, taser drops them. There happens to be a stairwell, a couple flights of stairs. Second officer goes in to grab the assailant, but the taser's still going. They didn't have our gloves, or the gloves you sell. They ended up getting in too close. They hit the wires. They're jolting, the assailant's jolting, and now the officer used the assailant as a sled going down the stairs. Officer could be hurt. Assailant gets hurt. situation can definitely change from being a controlled situation to an extremely uncontrolled situation. So it's very serious. These guys are running into this every day. They'll go in too soon, they will get jolted back. Our clubs will not allow it to happen. The jolt's going on, they're in, they can get there quicker, they can get the cuffs on, they can get the situation under control a lot quicker. So from a sales perspective, what you're really coaching and educating folks on is you can do your job quicker with this product and it's safe. No flight of stairs for you. Because imagine the officer going down a flight of stairs, they get hurt. Now all of a sudden you've got additional paperwork, administrative leave, and those kinds of things. We're going to ask you a question, how best can we serve with our product if you guys see it. What do you need to sell this? Tell us what you think. Because we're going to give you information, give you our experiences, but if you're running into stuff, or better yet, just your thoughts. If you say, you know what, I think if you guys did this, this would be better for you, because here's what I'm feeling with this product. And then at the quick technical component of this, we'll just brush on this real quick. The reason this works and what Thorshield is, we are a fabric. We're literally in the yarn, then which is woven, then which is knitted. We are more conductive than the human body. A good example is, for example, these are just fictitious numbers. If I have a number 2 million, and then I have a number 10. 2 million is your body, 10 is the product. Electricity comes in and says, bang! Am I going to go down and deal with 2 million people? Or do I want to deal with 10? Electricity is lazy. So I'm going with 10. So we're more conductive. So that's why it traverses or travels through us versus the human body. Probes or drive stun, either scenario.
So in the human body, even in a muscle group shot, you're at about 1,500 ohms. Our material is less than 10. So it's always going to choose our material over the body.
Let's see here, next slide, sir. So, in a nutshell, when you think about electroshock weapons, which is a term we use for any kind of stun gun, a cattle prod, a taser, any type of device like that, those are great offensive weapons. We are the only defense on the market. And from statistics shows 20 to 25% of the time an officer's weapon will be used against them. So whether it's their Glock or their taser, it's going to be useless. Because when they show up to the party for the situation, they're bringing weapons in, irregardless of what's already there. So now what's there plus what you have, I compounded. I've got all of these things here that could be used against me. Our whole thing is to protect the officers, period. So, security, protection, and the officers simply are entitled to the best protection. They protect us. As you think about a call, a domestic dispute call, a lady calls on her husband. This happened in Phoenix about 4 years ago. Officers show up, the signal unit shows up, the partner's on their way. The lady officer knocks on the door. She says, where's the husband? The wife says, he's not here. The female officer sees the husband darting off the left corner of her eye, around the fence and running. She goes in first. She's trying to get him, they wrestle, they fight, and so forth. She goes to grab her taser, he gets the taser from her. At that time, he takes the taser her in the head. She starts reaching for her weapon. She tases her in the arm. He tases her throughout her torso. Partner shows up. They finally get the suspect under control. But here's the question. If the female officer had protection, she would be protected. She could have dealt with that situation probably in a different way. The key is, what's her psyche after that event? So imagine yourself. We're going to demonstrate this, but imagine 50,000 kilovolts. See that wave? Electric shock wave? If that touched you in your cranium, how would that feel good? So what you guys are offering and what you're selling is the reason we built this product is to protect the officers. So if I get hit in my hand now, I can still deal with the situation. I can turn this away. I can hit you. I can reach for my baton or my gun or my weapon because I'm not feeling any effects. I'm still in control of the situation. So the last bullet around security, protection, and entitlement to the best, that is key. One other bullet I want to stress here is there are several cartridges that are used for law enforcement. And just think of distance right now. Like from here to say this chair, imagine that's 15 feet. So So I can take you down from here to there. So my distance to you is less, or is greater at this point. But what happens if it's 25 feet or 35 feet away? They have cartridges for the officers that go out 35 feet. Standard is 15. So now in this situation, I can take you down 15 feet away, and my partner can go and take you down. Less chance for injury to myself and to that person. So this is protection all around. But in general, mainly for the officer, especially the officer approaching to cuff that individual. All right.
But one thing we need to touch on too is confidence. Even officers who've gone through a lot of taser training, when you hear that sound, especially after you have gone through a tasing, when they hook you up and give you the ride, it gets in your head. That caveman instinct kicks in. And a lot of officers still have a lot of apprehension about dealing with electricity because it hurts. And it's somewhat fearful for a lot of folks. And by having our gloves on, having our body armor inserts in their vest, things like that, it really increases the confidence they have when using the tool, which is a big plus. So they're not apprehensive about going hands-on with the suspect. They're not apprehensive about going close quarters and really working the X26 in somebody who drives some modes. They're not worried about rolling back on them and shot.
Right. Here's an electrical test for you guys. How many people have done this or been shocked, right? You rub your foot on the carpet, you want to smile, you touch it. Cool. How many of you like that? Nobody's raising their hand.
Now when you go for that doorknob again,
Doing it or you're receiving it?
Receiving. Receiving. Good question. Receiving. That is like this on the scale of what this feels like. And if you guys don't like that, and that is like this level, imagine the officer feeling 50,000 kilowatts. Not fun. Cool. All right, so we talked a little bit about this earlier. One of our claim to fame is our main claim to fame is the taser protection, stun gun protection. We'll have to talk about the protection. We've also added cut and slash resistance, fire and flame, abrasion for tear and bite, and touchscreen device. And again, it's 360, so just to repeat, it isn't where some gloves or some products today have protection in limited areas. This is full protection. That's what you guys are offering. So an officer, literally a motor, can answer their phone with their thumb. And this is important because motors have these gloves on and it's hot and we're in Arizona and your phone rings, you pull over, you got your phone. Today you have to take those gloves off if you don't have, a different type of glove, you have to answer your phone. But now you just pull over, you can just answer like this or swipe it with your finger, what have you. Officers in a car get a call, you're working on your tough glove, you're working with these gloves, you're working on your tough glove. You're a ticketing machine, you get a call. You do not have to put gloves on, you can just go to your call. So your speed or your time to that interaction is much more.
And when you look at the price point too, our gloves are retailing in the same proximity as what a high-level cut glove in your catalog is retailing for. And when you look at the multi-thread protection versus just a high-level cut, those high-level cut gloves don't usually offer the NFPA FR ratings. They usually don't offer, obviously they don't offer the taser protection. So what we're saying is for the same value, you get 360-degree protection, multi-thread protection for the same price point of a normal glove.
And one thing to think about is the different types of stun devices out there: cell phones, batons, knives, brass knuckles. Taser has a whole slew of products from X26 to X3s. I even saw one the other day, an iPhone case with a stun gun device. And so the fact is, an officer, the chances are great because the numbers are increasing, that somebody will have this device and then unfortunately try to use it on an officer. Cool. All right, quick pulse check. How are we doing? Good, bad, indifferent? What are you guys thinking? Anybody ready to take the demo yet? I know he's working it because he's got
he wants the shirt.
These guys are ready.
He wants the shirt.
Ladies. All right. She's indecisive. You said no.
Yeah.
So, have you guys run into selling this or received any questions on the gloves right now? At this point, just checking. All right. Some of the other products we've got that we are just looking at our product line. Obviously, you guys are carrying the gloves in the body armor through point blank. We're looking to expand that with other products as well. And that's what this slide's really talking about. Shirts, uniforms, we have those as well.
Now, are you looking at what we'll call mainstream vendors, 511s, proppers, stuff like that, or are you looking at house brands where you would have Thorshield brand shirts and stuff like that?
A little bit of both.
Both, okay.
Yeah.
Because one thing we're finding, like whether it be the gloves, armor, everything else, is a lot of folks are slow to move to a new technology. So one of the things we're doing is we're building those markets for them, and then we're trying to, and then leverage their infrastructure.
Right. Like I was gonna say, that's the hardest part I had to overcome, you know, was people not knowing the product. The minute I said it's in PACA, boom, they're good.
Yeah. Right.
So you got the
Brand
PACA
awareness.
with Thorshield, you know, it's icing on the cake.
Correct, correct. And that's what we're finding too. A lot of what our product is, it's really a lot of education. Because folks that we learn, what we're learning is as we go to different conferences, is they're used to a cafeteria style approach. Right? And so what we're trying to do is, kind of like with this glove and what this slide shows, is you're getting quite a few different levels of protection, 7, 8, 10 levels of protection in one glove. It's a different concept. Plus the big thing is that electroshock weapon protection, which is something that's totally new because no one has it. So if you're an officer on the street today, you've been out there for 20 years, this is a new concept versus your regular gloves that you normally have. And so one of the reasons we went with this glove that you guys carry today, our Protector Series Eagle Series 1, is because we wanted to at least initially introduce a product that combined different functionalities into it all into one glove. Really, that was the point. Just to reiterate a little bit, third-party testing on the electroshock that cuts, slash, abrasion, tear, bite, flame resistance, and puncture. And puncture, to speak a little bit about, its blunt force screwdriver puncture, not hypodermic. And so all of these test ratings are done by third-party companies. We send them literally the finished goods, they run through their machines, they give us the ratings back. As well as we do our own internal, but we wanted to make sure our results were completely independent of the third party. So as you talk about the results of folks, it is about third-party test results, not G-squared test results.
And we want to drive home again, I know we beat the drum on this, but 360-degree protection. Almost every other glove manufacturer out there is just an endorsement of their hand, or in specific spots where they'll reinforce the glove. Ours are that rating no matter what surface you try to test it on. Cool.
Now we're getting into some questions, specifically FAQs, things that we've run into, and you guys may run into as well. And we'll interject some stories as well here. So how does this work? Kind of what we talked about before. Electricity wants to take the path of least resistance. It's lazy. It won't work. And so we've designed a product basically in the thread itself, in the knit, in the woven. It's not a solution, it won't wash out. That will actually say electricity come over here versus going through you.
And just to touch on, to educate folks on how the X26 works, and all stun guns work. Even some of the officers have a misconception that it's the earth ground that the weapon's working with. The ground reference is on the taser itself. So you could be standing in a tub of water, you could be any which way, it doesn't matter. All that matters is what you have a positive and negative probe on the target, and it's going to use you to complete the circuit, not the earth. So if one probe misses you, you won't ever feel the effect. That's why they've had both probes hit you or do a drive stun on you to get the effect.
Now one thing that will happen is if one probe hits you and the other probe does not, and then the taser, the person drives stuns hit, for example, your leg and the probe's in your shoulder,
Then you
will be completely incapacitated, then you just completed the circuit. Next is, will I be protected? One probe is stuck in me and one probe is not. Short answer is, beginning statement, no. It's designed for positive, negative connection into the fabric, into the material. Chelsea's going to show you a carrier vest.
So on the glove, just to cover that, if you had somebody take your X26 and you put your hand out and they fired the cartridge into your hand, the needles would stick you, but you would not feel the effects of electricity. So that's good news. The needles would get you with the electricity. In the body armor, we get this question a lot, like if you took one in the chest and one in the leg. What we found in testing is it really depends what your threshold of pain is. Some people can go, yeah, that hurts, but I can still grab my service revolver and respond to the threat. Other people, it takes them out. So what we officially say is, no, it does not work, because there's no way to gauge what someone's pain response will be in that situation. Because what happens is when it hits the armor, it's conducting through our material to somewhere around the edge, and then it's going to arc into your body and then down to that next probe. So you may or may not be incapacitated, so the answer is always no. But if the officers talk about that, you can at least discuss what we've seen internally, but officially it's no.
Right. question, sir? Electrical hazard, this is
Big
kind of
one.
like my favorite one.
Yes.
Whether it's lightning or the amperage in your house or a down power line, if you get called on a call from your officer, you show up there's a down power line.
Car battery.
Don't grab it.
Car battery. Say that again, sir.
Don't grab it.
Louder, please. Literally, we get that question. And we've got one that's coming up that talks about lightning. So this is designed for low amps, high voltage protection. And we tell officers all day long, do not pick up a down power line. You get called in on a call, there's a car there, and there's a down power line, you want to move it 2 feet. Let the electrical company come. They've got different gear that will allow them to do that. Leave that to them. Will this work wet? Yes, because it's actually not a solution and won't wash off. So it's actually in the fiber, so it will work wet.
And when people say, well, gee whiz, and my skin gets wet, yes, what happens is when your skin gets wet, it reduces your skin's ability to reduce electricity, so you become more conductive. But it doesn't matter. I mean, your skin can be wet. We're still way more conductive than we are certain materials always go.
Back in the scenario, fictitious numbers, you get 2 million to 10. You go from 2 million, you're going to actually become, whatever, 1 million or something. How do you launder it on the gloves? From a gloves perspective, just normal hand wash. You get something on it. This question's a great one because officers will deal with different situations, whether it's drugs or whether it's a person. There's sweat, blood in that situation. Normally what they'll do is have several pairs of gloves that they put on in those situations. If they're using this kind of all-in-one glove, they can wash it basically with hand soap and water, antimicrobials, you can wipe it off. They'll even say do not add bleach to it. Let's see here, as far as the carrier vest, if you guys carry the point blank, just normal laundering and the normal maintenance and care on the carrier.
I'm sorry, I have one question.
Sure.
Bloodborne pathogen, is that what you were stating here? Bloodborne pathogen as well?
It'll help, well, it's antimicrobial in the sense from odors and letting a lot of the bacteria come through.
But if they deal with blood, then
You need to launder and disinfect.
okay.
Water district, absolutely. Yeah. Will this increase my chance of being struck by lightning?
Get that one on.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So if I'm wearing your gear, will I get struck by lightning? Will it increase my chances? No. Lightning is a whole different animal. If lightning decides to strike you like a tree, you get struck.
And we've got the link on our website to Noah's, information on how objects get hit by lightning. So
how many times can Thorshield be shot? It's material, it's fabric. So the life of the garment. Now, obviously, a number of officers will take gloves, they will pitch them in the trunk, put them in the back seat, they throw them every which way. And so we say inspect your gloves to make sure it works. Officers generally do a spark test. This is a good way to check. Basically, a spark test is you check to make sure your device is working. So you take your X26, you drive slide, okay, good, you check the ignition, check your gun, everything is cool. If they see any degradation on the fabric into the material, right, take a look at it, get it replaced. Right? If you see holes in it and that kind of thing, get it replaced where the holes are. And if you drive something right in that hole, you will feel it. If the hole is in the back of the hand here, and I drive something in the front, I'm protected. But you now have a compromised spot. So get it replaced as soon as you can.
I think Greg already touched on what we degrade over time. So cut and torn, like Greg was saying, holes are bad. Now the good news is anywhere the hole isn't, it will still work. So they just need to keep that in mind. If they have a glove that's starting to fray and you got holes in the inner liner showing, it's time to replace it.
I think we've got, off the top of my head, let's take a look at here. By the way, you guys have a data sheet. Let's say 69B. So 6 months in the data purchase. And so one of the things you guys have is the data sheet. There's also kind of a brochure. I'll give the example. And the brochure basically highlights this glove in the wrestling version, and it gives you these same bullet points as kind of professional reminders of the product.
And Thorshield in the armor is warranted for the life of the carrier, so as long as the carrier is serviceable, Thorshield is warranted.
So no shelf life on the fabric?
No.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And there's a disclaimer on the data sheet that you have that talks about knowing this scenario, and so forth. So we really wanted to be clear on when to and when not to use. All right, so
We're almost to the testing.
almost to the testing, so we'll pause real quick. Questions, thoughts, what do you think? Just give us some feedback.
Now, have any of you guys sold the armor before with Thorshield in? So, and what's been the feedback on that so far?
Haven't really heard much back. And again, we get a lot of people who tell us what's bad. They never seem to tell us what's good.
Well, the good news is nobody's calling you and saying, hey, I just got shot. Who were
Right.
Yeah,
I have had a couple of people who have had the Thorshield and got hit. No, they like that.
Good.
So,
Good work.
in the carrier base, just to make sure I'm
Were
clear.
they testing or somebody actually shot in the field?
Somebody had a handheld.
Oh,
Okay.
great. That's good.
It was interdomestic, and
That's always seems to be the classic, yeah.
because it was somebody and they were drunk and pulled it out and just went right into the guy's chest.
Gotcha.
And he went,
That's great.
Nice, nice. And that's the perfect scenario.
Love to hear that.
One of the things we've talked about is really protection, but there's another element to this that I guess we want to stress. And the situation is this: electricity is one of those things you don't play with, right? If you're kids and you grow up and you realize this, fear. This device used inappropriately will induce a cardiac arrest. And so again, back on the serious side of this, an officer when they're out there working, obviously if it's used in the right context, totally safe, non-lethal, but in the hands of the bad person, if they did not use it properly, you could kill them. And so an officer going into work, if you think about it from an insurance perspective, one, how many accidents do you guys plan to get in today or in the lifetime of your car? Number two, if I wear a bulletproof vest, which most officers are mandated by Department to wear for protection in case your gun's safe for someone has a gun, protection, you need it on you at all times. We feel the same way with this. Because if you get incapacitated, if you look at the cycle on a taser, for example, the law enforcement cycle is, there's a little counter on the back, and it's basically counting down. Once it gets to zero, the charge will stop. You can also turn it off if you have an on-off lever on the side. But a civilian version, the difference is, I can go for 30 seconds. So I can go 31, 35, 35. And while this is going, nothing you can do. What's going to happen? And I'm going to turn it off. But the civilian version is a lot more, from a time perspective, a lot longer than the Army version.
Well, like the C2 will do
30 seconds.
30 seconds. So you can fire it,
Fire
set
it.
it down, and it'll run for 30 seconds. So you can fire it, incapacitate somebody, drop it, take off, which is a cool feature if it's used on bad guys.
So talk about proper use versus not proper use, I guess is the way to say this. A lot of situations we've heard in the stories, high profile targets, security officer. Person wants to get, you're a high profile target, you're the security officer. I'm the bad guy, I want to get him. So what I would do is I will shoot you with a 9mm or whatever kind of weapon I've got. I will shoot you with a taser because I want you as a hostage. Once I get you
Can't you have
incapacitated.
two hostages here?
No.
Man,
that's why
Hey,
you were
it's
in
my
there.
scenario.
I know.
That's why you were
Absolutely. But literally security guys who protect high profile targets, what they tell us, they say, look, they will shoot us and they'll take them down.
Especially in
Because you
South
are the
America.
hostage. Right? And so, hence, if you're wearing the gear, someone goes to get a high profile target, walks in the office. Security guy, I'm sorry, you still get shot.
I'm still dead.
You still did. But he's running.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no doubt, and we're here for you. In that sense, though, on the serious side again with the product is officers out there, they're protecting us, and they
So-
need protection.
One of the other things we didn't touch on is guys in the corrections environment who are using ice shields, bandit belts, things like that. Any corrections officer who's dealing with any kind of electronic control device, this would benefit them, especially for cell extractions, things like that. I don't know if you guys do with a lot of the prison market. Anyone who is a customer who's purchased Thorshield enhanced, pack out or point blank products, potential customer, because then you're just bolstering that defense. And by sometime this winter, ironically, clear we came out with our summer weight gloves, so they'll be 30% lighter. So we came out with our winter weight glove in the summer and our summer weight glove in the winter. But we've come up with strategies to actually reduce the thickness of our glove. Obviously, we tell the customers that right now, so they'll just wait and get the thinner glove. But we are working on ways to make it a much nicer glove to wear. Like right now, it feels like a winter glove, which in the Southwest, we've had corrections guys don't mind it, patrol officers are like, it's a little bit thick. The guys in New York and places like that don't care because they're used to wearing big gloves, so like, yeah, this is fine. But we're trying to address that market in the southern states, to where in California, places like that, where they want a nice thin glove. And the good news is we have a strategy. Just to discuss why we built it the way we built it. So when an officer asks, gee whiz, what's going on with the construction of this thing? As you know, we'll pass around that armor, we can stock the X26 event in a single layer. So that little teeny tiny thin piece of black Thorshield right there will stock the X26. Problem is when you make a fist and you start to make little gaps in the back of that knitted material in the back of your hand, anywhere there's a gap, you will get electrocuted. So what happened was we had to make a tri-liner in there where the liner is expanding and stretching at different rates, so you always have fibers filling those gaps. Because as you know, the officers love to buy gloves and get them the size a little bit smaller, jam the meat hooks in there, and then really stretch out that back fiber. So that's why we did the tri-liner system. We've come up with some new strategies to move away from the tri-liner system, and we should have this gray inner liner out, like I said, sometime probably around December. So that'll be good news. So you can follow up with your customers and go, hey, now it's even thinner. And it'll reduce the cost of it.
All right. Demonstration time. First will say, any questions, please? I'm still waiting to see what her answer is going to be. She's like on the fence.
No, I'm not.
So our new Gen 4 stuff feels
It's funny. You go to a conference.
So feel the hand on that, it's a little bit rough.
Like
squat
squat
feels just like
that's
a
right.
regular workout.
Yeah, it's like, polyester uniform,
Literal. And I look at the gentleman and say, excuse me, sir, you want to, and we'll sit there, we got our gear on. One of our sales guys, he'll have the carrier vest on, and he'll just chest. And the SWAT guys will look at
Old generation 3.
just like you.
I
got it.
Just that
I
little
just
gray
don't
line
want
or
to be
something.
silent.
It is, and it's really your muscle memories being conditioned.
Right.
So when you hear it, there's nothing you can do to avoid it, because it's muscle memory. And that's why it's important as the folks you talk to. Have you taken the ride before? Yeah, most of them have, because when you go to training, there's an opportunity in there. And some companies ask you to take it anyway, just so you know what it
Yeah,
feels
if you
like.
carry it, you have to go through a lot of them.
Correct. And remember, we watched the training class, and they went through a number of scenarios and information and so forth. And it was a volunteer thing at the end. They said, who wants to take a ride? And here's the question. Here's a full ride. So generally, a normal ride is center mass, chest shot. Full ride, clip in the shoulder, clip on the ankle. Cycle towards the whole body. It works. It works. Exactly.
And I'm sure when you guys talk to the officers about, upgrading their vest, anyone that's been hit is a no-brainer. Nobody wants to go through that again.
And
Hopefully.
well, it's actually a good point, right? So since you guys have been selling point blank impacted carriers, those same customers now obviously understand the need for it. Gloves are now available, which will then further help them in the line of duty. I can apprehend a suspect quicker because I can actually be on the assailants. I won't feel that effect. And one thing we'll talk about here is testing. So X26 time. All right, I'll do this one.
Now, do you guys ever do like on-site demonstrations and stuff at departments, or is everything pretty much by
It depends on your area. Some of us have outside sales
It's a
reps,
little big for my hand.
and they can, not every territory has it.
So the do's and don'ts of testing. So I'll talk about the don'ts and I'll do the do's. Make sense?
on there, hit here.
Yeah, so do not press anywhere or touch anywhere you don't have protection. The other thing is do not hover over the glove. Because what happens is just imagine a mushroom cloud that's building, and building, and then it jumps. Just smile. And so it's designed for connection. So if you're out and somebody does buy it and goes, hey, it didn't work. Say, well, talk to me a little bit. Customer service, talk to me a little bit. What happened? Did you, for example, when you tested, fire it off, and just directly connect. Not see the charge, put your finger in there, play with it,
Which they
work it, talk to, you know, not taught it. It is designed for fun. Because if you have a person on the ground, you fire it off drive stun mode, you are driving it in now. You don't have a bad person on the ground saying, look, here's this spark, can you put your finger in there, please?
Right.
And we say this, but we've talked to different agencies.
And at the trade shows, the guys that put the gloves on, they do that.
They literally look at the spark, get mesmerized by it. No, ooh. Static field, hello, no. You got your fingers, you're just watching it touch. This.
And the double probe question, we need to ask that.
Go. So here's the question. Whoever answers this question, Ryan, or Ian, you guys are doing the demo, please get ready to go. I have to come up with something. Here's the question on the table. Imagine Schulte has two probes, he has the taser and 2 probes are on the ground. I'm an officer, I've got 2 sets of gloves on, or a set of gloves on. If I do this, I pick up 1 probe with my right hand and pick up 1 probe with my left.
And I turn the taser
And
on.
I stand up, and we're out here having fun because we're in an apartment and it's a little slow day. I say, fire it off! Okay? People laugh. Question is this, will I feel the effects of the taser? Yes or no? Who says yes?
Is, you said 1 probe and 1.
1 probe's in my right hand, I'm just holding the probe.
Oh, okay.
Same guy.
And I'm holding the probe. And I'm like, let's play. Who says yes?
Did the demonstration start with, hey, watch this?
Sure.
So you have a probe in each hand, a glove on each hand. Would you get shot?
Would you get shot? Would you be incapacitated? Not even
We have
shot?
1 yes. Any other yeses? Any no's?
So he's saying yes?
You gotta get that feel.
No, it's the fact that it's,
Exactly.
Ladies,
Because it's not embedded into the fabric.
you'll be incapacitated. Your partner will go, "Jah."
Because remember, that ground reference is still in the glove, so it's going to go from hand A to hand B, back to the body, and your body is point C.
The proper way to do this, if you had to do this, which we don't obviously recommend, you pick both probes up. Take one on my right, take one on my left. I'm holding them. Then I'd say, burn them. Obviously, it's not a tool we don't want to do that, right? And really, the big thing to stress is, especially as you get feedback in customer service and in sales, is to use the tool properly. Seriously, because literally there are departments that goose other people with the taser. It happens. SWAT guys, training class comes in and they say, hey guys, I got a set of gloves. You have another pair of gloves? Put that glove on. I've got this other glove over here. I'm going to take this taser and show you how bad I am. Takes that X26. Gets our Thorshield glove. Okay, your turn. You go, because whatever glove you have obviously doesn't have what he knows he has. And then the ribbing starts from there.
So really, the takeaways, you know, if you take away anything from this other than the do's and don'ts, which are in the documentation, 360-degree multi-thread protection is the big deal. Because if people go, gee whiz, it's kind of an expensive glove, you're like, well, take a look at everything it brings you to the tip. Because it's similarly priced to a lot of the high-level cut gloves that are out there, and it gives you 360-degree protection.
And it is the only defense for a number of offensive devices. Like the gentleman you just explained a scenario where domestic dispute, the person had a stun gun and they hit the officer wearing Thorshield. They run into it, and they will. It's a law of numbers, right? Millions out there, people have them, bad situations, people want to be protected. Cool.
Well, I think it's time for some demos.
Demonstration time.
But who would be first? Who's first?
Oh,
Who's
first? I had no idea. He's ready. He was poking at it with the knife earlier. All right, so if this works, great. If it doesn't, this is fine.
I get 2 shirts if it doesn't work.
2 shirts if it doesn't
Oh,
work.
that's fair.
All right, so he has, okay, he's got the wrist length, Eagle Series 2. We'll go front palm. Okay, other hand.
2 shirts.
The two shirt.
Anybody else, ladies?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Oh,
Great.
got one.
And it's okay if it
And it's
doesn't,
tested
if
glove.
it's too
It's
big,
tested.
what have you. What we're doing is driving it, which is what you wanted, train the officer or educate the officers to do.
So it allows maintenance.
You're going to take glove off.
As far as.
She's ready. She's ready. She said she would.
That's what makes you
Here's what happens, this here's the thing, right? You get two officers, right? And they look at each other, we're like, okay, come on, let's try this. They look at each other. One, just like you. Go ahead. You go ahead. So he takes it off. Boom. And then the very next question goes, his partner will say, his partner will say, that's the appropriate response. Versus you would see the other.
Part of me want to go,
Yeah. So, here we know
what real.
I'm gonna grab the wrist. I'm just driving. Ready?
None of us is like slightly pull away.
Yeah. Ready?
Yeah. When you pull away, it gets a little bit of
What happens is you can build that field up.
Yep.
So, that's.
But I mean, it was just something that's like, tick.
Yeah,
Correct.
And it wasn't
Correct.
like a scratchy.
All right, ladies.
Yeah.
You ready?
I can have blood pressure. My heart will, ding, ding. I'm good.
You can hold your wrist.
That's okay.
So imagine yourself, so with this demo, imagine yourself being an officer, and you go in.
So you get a shirt if you do it? It's okay. Y'all can just give me the shirt. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
You just give me a shirt.
See, she's a lady who appreciates electricity without having experience. I agree with you.
You will smell it. Again, we're just taking the electricity component out. Literally, we did one demo where we had a air vest on, probes are shot in, Fox News, and he's cycling it, and the probes are in. It's burning around the probe.
Melting the
And
devil.
I'm talking to the interviewer, yeah, and he's over there. And I'm like,
You say it like on.
I'm like, yeah, and this is this, and this is this, and this is it. In my mind, I'm like, it's not working.
But on your skin, if you actually get shot in your skin raw with the probes, it'll put a good welt on you from the arcing right on your skin, so it'll burn you a little bit, and then plus when they pull it out, it has a fish hook on it. So it's a really interesting.
It's
process.
not pleasurable.
No, it is not. You don't want that to happen to you.
Cool. All right, folks, any questions? We're good? Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Have a great